What do they say, Jack Walter? I was talking about something. All right.
Vacation's over.
Vacation.
I had to say something, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm contractually obligated. But I wanted you to know the pressure's off. Now you're not worried. When's he gonna come get me?
But that's it, you only get one clip a day. Kind of back.
I was delivering left and right while you were in the throes of IT agony with your recording device there, so, you know.
How many Aggies?
I'm sorry if I
Take care,
can't-
Mike.
I didn't realize I'd do a special show just for you. Nate's over here like, I'm tired of the damn quips. He doesn't need any more quips here today. He's been quipping me to death. Oh,
He shudders at the sight.
oh. I'm a blessed man.
Double four today. Hey, how lucky you guys? Right? You'll get four square in here?
I'm good. How are you guys? Are we ready to roll? Okay. Well, hey, I do want to start today by, acknowledging this week here in Texas is THSCA, right? Honoring week for the coaches of Texas high school football, high school sports. And it's just, for me, it's a loud thank you to an industry that means so much to what we do every day. And is an industry, though I wasn't part of it here in Texas as a high school coach, I spent, a decade and a half in the high school world coaching and teaching, and such a impactful time of my life. So grateful for all our high school coaches out there and the impact they've had on our players here, the impact they've had on my own children, the coaches they had through their life. And so I hope anyone that listens, please spread the word how grateful we are. We look forward to honoring them this week and what we do here at Rice. And then, real quick, I'll kind of summarize now that we've watched film and we've gotten back to the work week, Saturday or Friday night, with Memphis. I start by saying Memphis is a heck of a football team, right? I mean, they're a top 15 team. that I truly believe we'll have an unbelievable opportunity to get into the college football playoffs, and deservedly so. And, what I said to the team really from the second quarter on, after the first quarter, we held our own. I thought we did a lot of good things I'm really proud of. The first quarter, unfortunately, is not that. We didn't start well. And part of that's on, part of that I give credit to Memphis, right? They came out as a college football playoff team can to establish themselves, and they did that. And we eventually responded, but it was just, too late. You get down 21-0, and you're just not going to be very successful in many of those endeavors. And that's really how I see it. And, stat-wise, pretty much an even game after the first quarter. The score was 17-14 after the first quarter. And all that with a kind of a wild sequence of plays in the middle of the third quarter where we're driving the field. Chase breaks a run, gets it down to 1st and goal and 8. We get a penalty on a backside play that had nothing to do with the play itself, gets called back, puts us in 2nd and 25. We have a ball go off the fingertips into a defender's hand, chase down. We get a unsportsmanlike late hit out of bounds, which all I know is the player wasn't out of bounds when we made contact, and puts them deep in the red zone, right? You go from a great scoring opportunity to putting the other team in the red zone. And still with all that, I thought we did a lot of good things in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So, coming out quicker and stronger will continue to do the message, something we talk about daily here. But and I am proud of the way our guys played in those 3 quarters there. So, with that, I'll open it up to questions, and as we prepare for this week and our opponent, UAB.
Coach, other than emphasizing, hey, we got to come out fast, is there anything that you can change tactically with your approach or what you do to kind of manufacture some of that early start?
Yeah, I think so. And we're looking at everything. We're looking at everything from, what's our Saturday morning schedule to what is our Friday evening schedule with our guys, to what's our pregame schedule, to what music are we warming up to. Like we are really tackling every possible thing that we have control over, so we can get out the gate a little better, because that's been a common theme, right? I've stood here before and said, hey, we've played some really good football after the first quarter, right? This is not the first time I've said that. Some of that is our opponents, and some of it is ourselves. So what can we control? So we're gonna do some things in practice, this week that hopefully will replicate that early game vibe. We'll do something today in practice that hopefully replicates like a first drive scenario for both sides of the football. And you hope that eventually, turns into now starting a little quicker.
And then when you look at UAB, I guess new coach and new quarterback, possibly from what you might have thought you'd seen 4 weeks ago. What do you see from them?
Well, they played 3 quarterbacks last week. We'll see we have to prepare for all 3, which I think is our challenge, right? That, I think they each give a little different presence to their offense. So, that will be our challenge. I think defensively, they're a team that they fly around. They want to have a pack mentality. How many guys can get to the football? And that shows up. They want their D-line to, get after the passer, and we'll see how they defend us. They've played similar teams already this year in Army and Navy, and I think they defended each of them a little different, right? So I expect it to look a little different against us. And they're playing with, I think, a rejuvenated sense of purpose since the change happened, right? Big win against Memphis, and then go on the road against a tough UConn team. So it's kind of ironic. Our last 2 opponents mirror each other. That doesn't happen very much in league when you have a league game and a non-league game. And so we've watched each other play a lot these last couple of weeks.
You talk more about their quarterbacks. It seems Burton upset Memphis, and he played most of the game against UConn.
He did.
What are his intangibles, and what could we expect if he does get the reps?
Yeah, I think what he gives them the ability to expand their running game, right? And still, keep the pass game concepts that they've worked hard on in place. I think he's a little more mobile, and I think he makes some plays with his feet. I think he improvises, and so I think that's a challenge, for your defense that maybe you don't get that full range with the other two guys, right? And so I think he gives them a well-rounded picture of being more balanced and getting a run game going, because I think they have some talented running backs. And so I'm not surprised that he got most of his snaps last week.
And other than quarterback, is it tough prepping for a new scheme versus, can you tell much of what Coach Kitna did Coach Dilfer versus what Coach Mortensen is doing now?
I think the difference is personnel, right? When with the quarterback change, that gave them a little different feel, right? And the schematics are similar, and I don't think that's as big a challenge. It is now preparing for a team that, is being coached a little bit differently, being prepared a little bit differently, and the personnel changes that come with that, right? And we got 2 weeks now since the change happened, so that helps us a little more than maybe what Memphis saw going in right after the change.
Coach, you look at Memphis, and now you got UAB coming up this week. What did you learn from last week? I guess week to week is a learning experience for you and the team.
Yeah, so I think what we take away from last week is, you're coming off a really good win against UConn. You're getting a top 25 team here, which I believe is a top 15 team, and it's a measuring stick. So that's what this week was. Memphis has been a perennial top 1-2 team in our league for years, right? They're a perennial 10-win team program. Well, that's where we want to be. To see your league's best, and you have the opportunity to measure yourself. Where are you on offense? Where are you on defense? How do you stack up? I think is really important as we continue to grow here. And I think it's important for our players to see that, and that those are our expectations. And, that's the direction we're heading, and some of the things we need to do to get there. Right. And, that's, I think, our challenge. But I think what we learned in that is, hey, when we all execute and we play with 11, that's what we call it, because there's a lot of plays we play with 10. It means you got one guy who's maybe got the wrong concept, did the wrong thing, didn't dial it in. And we can't afford that against that group at all. But when we play with all 11, the film looked much different. We gave ourselves opportunities when we played with all 11. So the challenge is against that quality of opponent, and to be the team we want to be, we have to play with 11 every snap against that opponent. And I think that's the takeaway, and helping your players see that again and showing that on film. And so, it's definitely a growing opportunity for us. And I thought we grew, right? It'd been easy at 21-0 in the first quarter, to really feel sorry for yourself and hang your head. And our guys didn't do that, and like I said, the opportunities, show themselves. And I thought we had a couple of unfortunate things, right? Marcus is in here, come speak to you guys, right? I thought he made a great special team play and forced a turnover, and, it was overturned. We didn't get the turnover, right? And then we had a questionable turnover that got overturned against us, right? So those are things that breaks you can't control. So we talked about what are things we can control, continue to make that hustle play. It was a huge hustle play by Marcus, right? Continue to do those things to give ourselves opportunity to make our own breaks.
And secondly, what have you, learned about this league? Because you have a different type of opponent from week to week.
Yes, you do. Yeah. It's a wildly diverse league, meaning, right, you're going to see a little bit of you're going to see a lot of different offenses, right? You're going to see different builds of programs, where programs are building kind of from the ground level up, like a Navy, like an Army, right? That they're developmental programs. And then you're going to see programs that, have a ton of replacement, roster changeover from year to year, right? That'd be Memphis. I think they had 78 new players on their roster this year. And so, I don't think that's a whole lot different across now college football, right? I think if you look into other leagues, you're going to find something similar. Maybe not quite, right? I think the range in our league, when you look at the different programs, whether it's us here, Army, Navy, Memphis, USF, I think there's a wide range of how people want to run their programs or how they can run their programs. And, I think the key for us is understanding what we're capable of doing, sticking to the vision of how do we build a program. And I've said this a lot, like, we're not here to build a team. We're here to build a program because, we won't have the capability to take in 78 new players every year, right? So we have to be more of that development program, but we do have the opportunity maybe to grow some through the portal when needed. So we can maybe be closer to a hybrid look. And I think that the key for everyone who's successful in our league is they understand how to build their program inside their organization, and they lean on that to become successful, right? Navy is built much differently than Memphis, but they both had a lot of success these last couple of years. Army, same way. And so it's important for us to find our niche. How do we build our program and continue to trust that process as we build?
Since Marcus and Chase are here, can you talk about them and how they've led their respective sides of the ball there?
Well, there's, when you think about your season as a whole, and I didn't hide from the fact that, hey, we're pursuing a bowl game, right? That's our goal, trying to get to 6 wins. And how do you get there? And these two young men here are incredibly impactful to that. I mean, to have the opportunity at this point, I said at the beginning of the year in a couple interviews, I'd be disappointed if we weren't competing for a bowl spot late in the year. Well, here we are. We're late in the year. We're in November, and we're competing for a bowl spot. Now, are we all disappointed? Maybe we haven't secured that yet. Yeah, sure we are. We all want that, but we're still have that opportunity in front of us. And Chase and Marcus are 2 reasons that we have that opportunity, right? Marcus has been a stable force in our secondary all year at safety, and it really has done a phenomenal job of, man, there's been some rotation back there because of injuries at corner and at safety, and he's been a guy that's been asked to kind of get everybody in the right place, to play some different roles at times to make up for what we're lacking, whether it's because of injuries or guys out. I don't know where we'd be without him. And Chase, on the other hand, the opposite side of the football, coming into a year, really playing quarterback for the first time in years in a brand new system that is unique. And I think everybody's seen how he's grown in that system and what it's enabled us to do. And there's still a lot of growth for him still, and he'll admit that, but he's come so far in giving us an opportunity to win football games from his position in the leadership, and really grateful for both of them. And excited to now see what they're going to bring to the back half this year for us.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys. Go Owls. Oh yeah, talk to me.
Well, you have 3 keys to the game for this weekend?
3 keys. Well, yeah. So I'll start as I do each and every week, and it's not an exciting key, but it's a key, and it was a key last week. We have to control the line of scrimmage, and so when I look at the first quarter last week, we didn't control the line of scrimmage on either side of the football. Memphis did, and that laid the foundation for the rest of the game, right? And so if you can't control the line of scrimmage, no matter what you're doing on either side of the football, it's going to be a long day. So we got to control the line of scrimmage. Second one, we got to start fast, right? You've heard me talk about that a lot these last couple of weeks. We got to find a way, right? When that clock starts, that we're ready to roll and play our best football, and then maintain that. And then the third thing for me is, we've got to generate some turnovers, and we have to protect the football. Offensively, we got to protect it. Special teams, we got to protect it. Defensively, we've got to generate some and create some turnovers and win the turnover battle. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.
All right. Start kind of big picture. We've kind of checked in with you throughout the season about how you feel comfortability in the offense and how you've kind of seen it grow from, I guess, the UTSA game that you didn't really play to these last 2 weeks. How have you kind of seen that arc of the offensive growth?
Yeah, I think it's from week to week. We kind of evolved each week in how we add layers to the working scheme schematically and stuff like that. You see me, I'm able to throw the ball around and from a difference between like, you know, me having thrown the ball 9 times and 22 times, but we got the same result, you know, in a win versus like Louisiana versus Connecticut, you know, just kind of based off how the defense plays us and what they give us and whatnot, you know. I think that's what's so interesting about the offense. You know, we can go to a game and Q-Jack have 4 touchdowns or Dana can have 2 touchdowns. We come out with the same result and that type of facet.
And then Coach, we chatted with him post-game Saturday. He kind of circled second down this week. Is kind of something that sets y'all back. What did you kind of see going through the run of the game against Memphis last week? Where first down, you get 5 yards, and second down, it's no gain or something.
Yeah, I think we just, you know, if we start off fast, like Coach said, you know, our goal and attention to detail this week is just starting off fast and being consistent, you know, so we can eliminate any negative plays that might affect, you know, our first down play, you know, we have penalties or, you know, just maybe miss assignment or anything like that. Goal is just to continue to be consistent, and then that's kind of what the base of the offense runs off: consistency. We can, everybody, all 11 works in to do our thing, and then we move the ball pretty efficiently.
Coach talked about UAB's offense earlier. What have you seen from UAB's defense that can be challenging?
You know, they run like a 4-3, you know, 2 high shell safety, good athletes. Each defense guys play this kind of differently. You know, for them it'd be a little different. They're based off who we're reading in the run game. But compared to last week, they run like a 3-3 stack 5. But that's the main difference between the last 2 defenses.
And it's probably obvious any season, but have you noticed defenses playing y'all differently with such a unique scheme?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. We get ahead of it and on top of it pretty quick, you know, just seeing like tendencies that they might run and seeing other film, like if they play like a Navy or a team like that, just see like tendencies and stuff like that. But it's kind of almost unpredictable what they might do coming into the game. That's why our first drive, you can come back and say, okay, they're going to play us like this week versus what we might expect it or not. Just because like our offense is so unique in a different way, and nobody kind of runs it like us. So it's kind of hard for them to, you know, measure what we're going to do versus what we're going to do.
Talk about looking forward to playing this game and how big it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think our approach to each game is just go in and win the game. You know, regardless of the outside factors, we know where we are. I think going each week, the mindset is go 1-0 each week. You know, I feel like we keep that mindset and block out any external noise or anything like that. We just keep our head down and work. We'll be happy to result come Saturday.
Talk about your comfort now in this offense as you approach this game.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. You know, I think as games go on, you know, season goes on, you know, just naturally. Just everybody's getting more comfortable, especially first time in this the system like this. You know, it's kind of like being like a freshman coach refers to it in the offense scheme like that. But like I think as time goes by, each practice, each day, just more comfortable, and everybody just feels good, and I feel good.
What have you seen from Q-Jack throughout this season as he's emerged?
Q-Jack's great. You know, anytime he gets the ball, he can pop off for 80-yard touchdown. He does great in the passing game as well. So like, that's my guy. So yeah.
Speaking of Q-Jack, didn't connect on that pass play this previous week against Memphis. You did hit him against UConn. When you kind of look at the film and evaluate this offense, when you look at a 14-point performance, how many do you see plays like that just kind of jump out where it was 14, but it could have been?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, that's also football. You know, it's incompletion that happen throughout the game. You know, we like to obviously connect on everything that we do, no matter what. Otherwise, I'll throw 100% in every game. But yeah, you know, right there, you know, we just continue to work and come back to practice. That's why we practice today, this Tuesday.
Anything else? Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Coach talked on it a little bit, kind of how integral you've been for the defense. And you kind of come into the season hoping to be a big part of it, but then you kind of pinch yourself, look around, and be like, "Oh man, I'm kind of living the dream."
Yeah. I feel like I've played a pretty good role on the defense this year. Not as much like pinching myself. I kind of expected to be in the position that I'm in. I feel like I've worked hard, and I'm just proud to be where I am. But defense as a whole, we've all been balling, and when one guy goes down, we have a mentality, it's next man up mentality. So it's not just me that's just making a big role. We all have guys that are ready to step up when somebody else goes down.
What's it like playing a team from Alabama? And do you know anybody that particularly close? You might know a lot, but just anybody you're particularly close to in UAB?
There's nobody that I'm particularly close to. I think my freshman and sophomore year, I had a few closer friends that played at UAB, but it's always fun. We play them, whether we go there, they come here. It's always a dogfight. They got a great squad. I'm just looking forward to competing.
What do you know about them? How's it feel to actually be playing again this week? What do you know primarily about UAB?
I know that they're a hungry team. Just last year, we were in a similar position where we didn't have our head coach, and I know that we were able to put together some good performances and win some big games for us. So I believe that they're real hungry, and I don't think that we can take anything that they do lightly because they're going to be ready to come out here and win.
Talk about what you see when you watch your offense.
When I'm watching our offense, it kind of reminds me of how they've been hinting at like Army Navy, but kind of like a hybrid. I'll get on the game sometimes and play as Righteous so I can use our offense. It's a real unique scheme, fun to use, fun to be in. And I think that they were talking about the consistency, and once they find their groove and they're getting consistent, they're really hard to stop and they can put up a lot of points.
And UAB's offense, I know you don't know exactly who's going to be QB, but can you talk about any strengths? And the running game's been good for them in the past. What have you seen from UAB's offense?
Right, they have good athletes all over the place. Some really good athletes at receiver. Y'all already talked about their running backs. I think they got some good backs. And then on the quarterback side, they have two guys that can go in there and get the job done when he needs to. So like I said before, we can't take any position, any situation lightly, and I think they'll be ready to come out here and compete.
And then I want to go back to something you said earlier about, moving around and changing things up with guys come in and out. I feel like the last couple of weeks in particular, you've played all over the field and you lined up at like corner and deep safety too. What's it like being in that moment in the game and wearing so many hats?
Well, we do it all week in practice. So by the time Saturday rolls around, it's not really anything new, not anything that we haven't done before. We have a lot of schemes and a lot of personnel groups to get the right guys in the right places. So just working through it in practice helps us get comfortable within the scheme. So when Saturday rolls around, second nature.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See you Friday, Saturday. Some of you before Saturday.
I will see you this afternoon.
Yes, I know.